outside the country on various engagements, so we needed to postpone the meeting to today. And this meeting came up as a result of the non-performance of the 2024 budget, or I would say abysmal performance of the 2024 budget, especially with respect to the capital expenditures. As we are all aware, custom services generated about 6.1 trillion in 2024 as against the revenue target of 5.079 trillion. Yet, the performance of the capital expenditure was nothing to write home about. The sources of income to the Nigerian Custom Services are basically 7% cost of collection, 2% VAT, 60% of 1% CISS, and a few other charges. Then that of CISS recorded zero performance. Okay? And we need to know why. On the issue of capital expenditure, we have been informed that many of the projects that are beyond the presidential tender board and the ministerial tender board, which are meant for the Federal Executive Council approval, are pending in the minister's office, in the office of the Minister of Finance and Community Minister of the Economy. That the approvals are pending in his office, and that some of the documents have been there since August last year. And up to date, there hasn't been any response from his office. We need to know why. We passed the resolution that Nigerian Custom Service should stop collection of 1% CISS and 7% cost of collection, as they are both, as these collections are not backed by Act of Parliament. The collection of 1% CISS and 7% cost of collection ought to have stopped on 30th of June 2025 because there was a resolution passed in that regard. But to date, that has not been effective. The legal collection as contained in section 18(6)(a) of the Nigerian Custom Service Act is 4% FOD, and that is the basis for the 2025 budget. This joint committee would like to know what the Nigerian Custom Services and the Ministry of Finance are doing to address all these anomalies, such that the performance of Nigerian Custom Services will be more effective going forward, especially with respect to capital expenditures, with respect to personnel cost and overhead cost. Because like I did say earlier, all the indices show that the capital projects, personnel cost and overhead cost in terms of performance are abysmally, they all performed abysmally low in 2024. And unless we are able to address the issues concerned, there will be, this problem will continue to linger on, okay, in Nigerian Custom Services. We need to address those issues today. And I believe that the Honorable Minister, here present himself, and the CG Custom will be able to provide solutions today so that Nigerian Custom Services can be more effective in terms of their performance by making available to them materials that are enshrined in the budget. It's not that we pass the budget and they cannot implement. The opinion I've heard is that of myself and my co-chairman. On behalf want to come up with an addendum, okay? And thereafter, we will now request the Honorable Minister and the CG Customs to respond accordingly. Thank you very much.
Representatives, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, the Controller General of Nigeria Customs Service, and Chairman House of Representative Committee on Customs and Excise. Yes, my colleague has said nearly everything that we need to say. I'm just going to add little 3 addendum to what he has said. And I will take us to the Act of the Customs in Section 18, Section 1861, 6A, and other sections for us to get clarity of what we are saying. The Comprehensive Import Supervision Scheme, CISS, is an executive fiat. It's not in any legislation in Nigeria, and it's not backed by any act of the parliament. So it makes it illegal. Secondly, the 7% cost of collection that customs are taking from whatever they generated is equally illegal because it's also an executive fiat. So the president, in his magnanimity, gave Nigeria Customs Service to collect their own fund to fund themselves, which is 4% free on board, FOB. And everybody knows the history of 1% CISS. It was when the service providers were around. They were handling most of the services now being rendered by customs, by themselves. That is the Cotecna, SGS, then later they brought in Cotecna, Global Scan. So these three were the service providers right from even pre-shipment inspection time up to destination inspection period. So these people were engaged. So they were being taken care of from this 1% CISS. And gradually, when Webfontaine came as well, they were also included in this 1% CISS. But all of them, it is only Webfontaine that is still remaining to live, which I believe practically now, Custom has taken over all the roles they were playing before. Webfontaine has even removed their equipment, and now Custom brought out their new system called Bodogu. So there's no point of keeping the 1% CISS that is even illegal. So whatever collection they want to take is supposed to be the one that is backed by law, which is 4% free on board. That is 4% FOB. And I have discussed with the Honorable Minister, I tried to explain to him, even though if there's anything they want to service in the Ministry of Finance, 3% is okay for custom, while they can take 1% of that 3% to take care of the concessionaire, which is TMP, working with them now, providing the infrastructure for them, that is the network, and then also generating pre-arrival assessment reports. So it is enough to take care of any need in terms of finance. And I do say it is not an increasing cost because Nigeria Customs Service is going to drop what they are taking from government money, which is 7% cost of collection, and leave it to government for government to have more resources to use. While they go and collect, it is whatever they work, they will get. If they don't work, they don't get anything. That is the 4% FOB. And if you look at everywhere in the world, every country works towards mercantilism. That is encouraging export, while by discouraging import. Every import is a leakage in the economy, while import is an injection into the system. So even by this way, we are also trying to make our economy strong, because whoever sees it as an increased cost to him is to bring his industry and establish it here in Nigeria. So we should not make import to be something that everybody should be doing. So it's another way of protecting local industries. So this is all I can say on this. But on the issue of non-performance of the capital project, I will not blame the minister who has not taken this project to fake. I would rather say custom did not check the power that government gave to them and use it. Let somebody go to court and challenge you, because it is there in section 18, section 18(6) and A. Permit me to read it. It says, notwithstanding anything to the contrary contained in any law or enactment, the service shall be empowered, subject to the provision of this act, for the purpose and objective of promoting stability and continuity in revenue generation, trade facilitation, and economic development of the government. A, have power to superintend and execute, as it may deem necessary, approved capital expenditure of each project that its cost not exceeding 10% of the total approved capital project within the appropriation or supplementary appropriation act for the year. What this section is saying, and it's already a law, is if you have your capital project, maybe the higher capital project you have is 300 billion. This law is giving you power, any line item that is not more than 30 billion, you have power to superintend over it. You don't need to go and disturb Minister of Finance to be taking it to fake for you. So the law gives you this power to be able to make it happen. Because you are very critical to the economy. You are in the border. You are protecting our border stations. You are protecting the seaport. Many things are coming through border stations. So if you lack equipment to fight them, who are you to blame? The president who gave you the power is not stupid. He has seen the importance of customs, and that is why they give you that power. For you to send such project to him as a minister, it's not his fault. Even though if he refuses to take it to fake, it means he has seen that you have the power to execute without coming to him. So I want you to take it from here today. I didn't give it to you. It is the president of Nigeria that gave you this power. And nobody is above the president as far as we are all human beings. So please, take your law and use your law as given unto you. And we would like to hear from you, hear from the minister, reasons why you were, may his soul rest in peace, President Muhammad Buhari was the one that gave approval for you to take 60% of the CISS to do infrastructure. He is no longer there. That is why you need something that can stand test of time, which is the law. So now the president is not there, another president has come. So maybe that opportunity of taking 60% of the 1% CISS is not there. That is why it cannot work. So you go back to what the law says you should do. And with the minister in our midst today, I believe we will resolve so that by tomorrow, you should be able to connect your 4% FOB and then drop the 1% CISS from the dashboard of duty calculation, and also drop 7% cost of collection you are taking from the treasury. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much for that insightful discussion. Please, there is an area of conflict here, and I think the Honorable Minister will have to address it decisively here. He did mention in the course of his presentation that you don't necessarily have to take those projects, okay, the approval. You don't need to escalate it to the Federal Executive Council. That is what he is saying, because you have the power, as enshrined in the law, you have the power, and that you are not executing, you are not using that power. It is good a thing that the Honorable Minister is here now, okay? This gray area has to be addressed today. Does the Nigerian Customs Services have the power
to execute those projects without recourse to the Federal Executive Council. We have to resolve those issues here today. On that note, before we go into contributions, I want,
Nigeria Customs Service projects that are waiting Federal Executive Council approval. There are approximately 10. They are worth 50 billion naira. So I'm not sure how that would really move the needle, even though the sum is substantial. And I believe they are adequately funded in terms of their overheads and their recurrent, because as the Joint Chairman noted, they have a cost that accrues to them regularly and without fail. We are in an era where the spotlight is on the Nigerian Customs Service amongst other elements of what the Joint Chairman said in terms of international trade and payments, and indeed what he called mercantilism, trying to favor exports over imports. But I would argue that theory shows that in international trade, the more that is done, the better off everybody is from the comparative advantage. And this is a particularly important time in world trade. There is a retreat from international trade, from open, the world rules-based world trading system. And there is a move towards effectively what they call a reciprocal tariff regime. And what that does, it reduces and restricts international trade and the benefits that derive from it. On the other hand, we as Nigeria, as Africa, are looking to respond by trading more with ourselves. So I would say what we are looking for is greater volumes and success of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, as opposed to restricting ourselves. When you import, you get machinery, you get raw materials that allow you to produce both for domestic market and again for export. Be that as it may, I've talked about the fact that the Federal Executive Council has before it 10 projects, which it will, by God's grace, deal with dispatch. And in fact, the level at which projects have to come to the Federal Executive Council has been recently amended, so there's even less need for projects below a certain level to need to go to the Federal Executive Council. We do have, hopefully by the first quarter of next year, the implementation of the National Single Window Project, which is to improve the trading system, increase revenue from trade, and generally make our ports more competitive, both in terms of imports and exports. And the Web Fontaine that you talk about, Co-Chairman, they have not completely finished the process of legal disengagement, although they are well on the way to it. In terms of, I think, we are missing our lawyer, both our Director of Legal Services in the Ministry of Finance and indeed the Honorable Attorney General and Minister for Justice, because, Co-Chairman, you talked of the illegality of the 1% CSS charge, the illegality of the 7% cost of collection, and the fact that legally the grounds our custom can stand on is the 4% FOB charge. I don't want to say much other than that those statements, I think we need to have them interrogated by our legal advisors, and then we take from them their own input to decide what the next steps can be. In terms of the 4% FOB, there was, if we all recall, an attempt to begin implementation, but stakeholders, and this is a liberal democracy in which people have the ability and even the right to make input. And it's important that stakeholders understand and are carried along. The major stakeholders requested more dialogue before implementation of the FOB, and that's where we are on that. They expressed major concerns, key aspects of the implementation were of concern to them, and they felt that they would like to ask for a stay of execution. That's all. The law is the law, and it must be implemented. The fundamental basis of our democracy is rule of law, sanctity of contracts, and yet at the same time there is room, co-chairman, for dialogue. So on that note, I believe I have tried to address the issues that you have raised, and I'm sure the Comptroller General of Customs here, as well as his colleagues, my own colleague, the Director of Home Finance, will be able to perhaps fill in any gaps that I've left. So once again, I thank you, and let me use this opportunity to apologize profusely for the fact that this sitting should actually have come earlier, but due to official duty, I, on one occasion, and I believe the Director, the Comptroller General of Customs on another occasion, were unavoidably absent. I thank you.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Minister.
Committee on Customs, other present, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, I want to start off from where the Honorable Minister ended, and that is to apologize for my unavailability when this matter was earlier scheduled to be taken. Secondly, I also want to state that it's just left for me to add one or two details to the major issues that have been clarified by my minister. And because the chairman of the House Committee went on memory lane, let me start by establishing the premise of the enactment of the Nigeria Customs Service Act in 2023. And basically, what the act sought to do was to provide answers to issues that were missing in the previous act, especially that has to do with the introduction of technology into our operations. So in several sections of the new act, provisions were made for customs to undertake technological-driven operations and to undertake innovations that would help us run what we can consider a modern customs service. So for trade facilitation purposes and for purposes of generating revenue, provisions were made for the use of non-intrusive technology, use of deployment of scanners, the use of artificial intelligence, launching of authorized economic operator program, advanced rulings, and so many other initiatives that are deployed by other customs administrations in the world. The Act also envisaged that these innovations will entail a higher level of financial investment different from what we used to have before. And the basis was that, we've noticed 10 years to the introduction of the 7% cost of duty, that there was a progressive reduction in the amount of 7% that accrues to the Customs Administration. And the basic reason for this was that Nigeria was moving more towards the regime of multilateralism. We've just signed off to implement AFTA. Before then, we were implementing ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme. All of this, and then Nigeria wanted to launch a very ambitious industrial programs. So revenues were being given up so that we can develop these sectors of the industry. So the money accruing from 7% was increasingly being reduced. This was why the Act advocated the FOB approach, which was 4%. And I've attended a couple of FAC meetings chaired by the Honorable Minister, and the persistent complaint has been the cost of collections, meaning that the money that was deducted from the Federation account, money that otherwise would have been shared by the various tiers of government, that was being withheld to run customs at 7%. So it was more or less a kind of, there was a widespread agreement amongst all stakeholders in all the public hearings that were undertaken before the Act eventually was consummated in 2023. So when I became CG, one of the earliest discussions I had with the committee and with the minister would be to seek support for the implementation of the 4% FOB. And consultations started with the ministry, and that was what led us boldly to start the implementation of the 4% FOB. And I also remind us that our budget for 2024 was actually predicated on the 4% FOB. So the first issue under discussion here today is that the basis of non-performance was because the budget was predicated on 4% FOB as directed by the National Assembly. However, the implementation was based on 7% cost of collection because we could not start the implementation of 4% FOB. Although the story is not as bad as mentioned by the minister, as at the time we did the budget presentation, budget performance for 2024 hovered around 32 to 33%. But as at the close of business yesterday, our budget performance for 2024 was 49.83%. So we are almost 50% implementation level. With this one promised by the Honorable Minister, I want to believe that this should get us to a very comfortable level. Regarding the implementation, I'm also happy to note that my engagement in Lagos earlier today and in the last 2 weeks were with our stakeholders, and it was to explain to them that what we are actually trying to do in terms of implementation of 4% FOB would be a kind of a win-win situation for everybody involved because, as co-chair has said, it will involve the removal of 7% cost of collection, which is a very big chunk currently in the payment profile of importers. By the time this is dropped, by the time 1% CISS is also dropped, because these are direct provisions of the law, we believe that, one, it will reduce the cost of doing business. Number two, it will ensure that all the tiers of government will have access to 100% of the revenue collected by government. And three, actually, when you look at the aggregate, the money, the payments that will be done by importers would actually be less when we compare it to what they are doing now. So I believe that it is going to be a win-win once we start. So when we attempted it we were asked to slow down, as you heard from the minister, that we needed to do more consultations. More of these consultations have been done, and I can assure you that there is a higher level of acceptance now among our stakeholders, and we are ready to implement. Finally, our co-chair mentioned the flexibility in the expenditure profile of the customs as provided by Section 18C of the Act. I agree very much with you that this would allow us a little bit of more flexibility. It will enhance the effectiveness of our budget performance. In fact, this section that co-chair did not read was even further down the line. There was even a section that we are actually allowed to borrow, to undertake some borrowing in execution of some project once the approval process is sought from the Honorable Minister. So we are aware of this, but co-chair, we cannot implement sections B and C and leave the main section that gives back to this, section 18A, which is the 4% FOB. It is only when we start implementing 4% FOB as a funding system that we can, do this other one that we talked about, because, it's easier for us to implement. So everything is dependent on the implementation of the 4% FOB. Once again, I thank the Joint Committee for the opportunity given us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now invite comments from distinguished colleagues.
Come back to the same source where this thing originated, this bill or the act. Automatically, the two houses will sit together and see to your amendment so that you will not be walking on a tightrope. That is what we want to prevent. Two, because I've explained to them, how do they generate insurance and freight? Is it the importers that are giving them, or they are generating on their own platform? That suggests fraud. Now that it's going to be CIF, you send this thing back to the National Assembly for amendment, so that whatever that is workable, they will give it to you. Then, Mr. Minister, on this export drive of the federal government, I pointed out to the CG when I toured the borders. We have not been able to realize what we wanted on export, because most of this export are being taken away through the borders, particularly in the north, and I showed him a lot. It was just, I think what he did was just to remove the man in Castina. But that is, it goes on. If you get to Cotonou today, Togo and Ghana, you see Dangote cement freely sold on the street, which is lesser than what we are selling here. It's the same thing with whatever they are importing. Now, why are they smuggling it? It's because of the 2% of the value to be deposited with the CBN, which is the federal government revenue. If you go there now, you will see what I'm saying. Then that is part of export. Maybe others in the areas of the port and so on, the declaration may be very wrong. We have to tighten this thing so that federal government will continue to generate hard currency from what we are doing. The declaration, the smuggling on export goods to all these abroad foreign countries has deprived us of having a lot of foreign currencies in our reserve. On the performance of the on the budget since 2023 to date, I think he took over in 2023. He met the budget which has been prepared for him. But if you follow, this time around, I will blame Mr. Minister. You don't have enough time as the chairman of the board. Whether you are the executive chairman of the board, you are just, I don't know, you don't have enough time to scrutinize their budget. the budget indicates repetitions. It doesn't show that this is a technical service that we need to move the economy forward. Because if you look at 2024, I think they have about 706 billion for capital projects also, or their expenditures. This year alone, as hard as we are moving the economy up and down, they have 1.1 trillion for this year alone. Now, Mr. Chairman, to the extent that instead of establishing a university like what went on during the last administration, the military university, the Navy university, the Air Force university, and so on, what they have in Gwagwalada there is equivalent of a university. And if they have another one at Ikeja, which can be upgraded instead of establishing a new university. If you look at their nominal road, they are having some problems in the middle. As soon as this crop of people leave down, you will see what I'm saying. The knowledge and everything is gone. So instead of using the money to go on all these frivolities, automatically you need to empower the existing ones, recruit a lot, so that that gap that is coming, it's coming in the next 5 years, you yourself will be around to see it. You will have blocked that gap. You will have trained a lot of people to, at least to replace them in future. That university issue, I have never seen in the world that UK University of Customs, Dubai that has the best managed port in the world, I have never seen Dubai University of Customs. There are existing training schools, training colleges that can be upgraded to the university level. As regard that one, what is Odogu? Who are the people behind Odogu? What is the level of performance of weapon things that has swindled us billions of dollars?
Sorry, distinguished colleague, sorry, please. Can we take these under any other items, please? Let's concentrate on the issue at stake.
We are talking of revenue generation.
Yes, but we are talking of the performance, okay, of the budget and the stumbling blocks, okay? Why those projects could not be implemented in 2024? There is still provision for when you are no. Please, let's concentrate on this, tidy it up, and then when we come to any other business, we can now raise it. Please, sir. Okay, thank you.
A layman's cap and ask layman's question relating to the implementation of the 2024 budget. Honorable Minister for Finance, I always say that you are the economic surgeon of this nation. In 2023, 30th of December, this National Assembly, this Parliament, passed the budget for 2024. That budget was pegged at 800 naira per dollar. Today... Are
you talking to customs budgets?
No. The Minister for Finance is here. I'm asking a question. Should I ask the question or should I stop?
Honorable colleagues, let us speak to customs issue that we are here for. That was national budget.
Where are we here?
No, we are for customs budgets.
Sorry, excuse me. Thank you very much. Honorable, please come back. Hello. Please come back. Hello. Sorry, excuse me. Hello, Honorable. No, let him come. You can take up some of these issues under any other business. Hello, you can take up some of these issues under any other business. Please come. Please. There is provision for any other business. When we come there, you can raise that issue. No, please. Please. You will raise it. You will raise it under any other business so that we don't digress much. Please. Thank you very much. Thank you. Any other? Okay, fine.
Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister was talking about the legality or otherwise of the 1% CISS and then 7% cost of collection, that you will need to seek legal opinion. Am I correct? When I said they are illegal, they are not backed by any act of parliament. We have checked. Sir? So because we have checked LFN, we check everywhere, it is never in anywhere. Even before we did this act, we did the same thing. So automatically when this act came into being, 1% CISS is gone. That is how it's supposed to be. Then 7% collection also gone. So our advice here now today is the Controller General of Customs meet with the Minister of Finance and see how you can connect your 4% FOB immediately. So whoever has any question, there is no court of law they want to go and win you. It's impossible because it's a law, except the law comes back to the parliament for amendment. So I take process. It's not something you bring today and tomorrow is amended. So please work according to the law. Don't work against the law. I just want to plead with my other brother here, Senator Fadansi. Custom needs 4% to survive. If you see their personnel is 43%, if you see the overhead around 46%, so they are not doing well because they are what? Underfunded. They don't have the money to operate. And if we see things that are wrong, we will be abusing them. We should encourage them to be able to at least fund themselves. I was telling CG, because I have a family member who is a CA in custom, keep on crying to me as we give her money. I said, but you are already working. She said that Copper, NYC, received more than her. I said, it's not possible. She brought her pay slip. When everything was deducted, her salary is 65,000 naira. So because custom cannot increase their salary, they don't have that money. So those of us who have been around for some time, that is the truth. So the need now is for them to be connected to this 4% FOB. And as I said, out of the 4% of FOB, from 1%, they can take care of the concessionaire, which is TMP, Trade Modernization Project, which is providing the network now for them, called Bodogu. And then from there, this for Ministry of Finance to maintain, there are certain things they maintain, Ministry of Finance from the 1% CISS, it can come out from that 1% as well. We can sit on a round table and get this thing done. So this is just my appeal so that people outside will not be mocking us that we are working against the law and we are lawmakers. So this is just my own.
Thank you very much. My issues here, and I want to draw the attention of the minister and the CG Customs to these issues before we go to the other issues raised by the Senator Fadansi that has to do with establishment of universities and other things, other items that are in the 2025 budget. We'll come to that, sir. First, Honorable Minister, the 4% FOB, okay, has been passed into law. All we are left with is implementation. Do we subject something that has been passed into law into further debate in the public? I don't really understand. I think what we are left with is implementation. Because you did mention that there are concerns raised by stakeholders. Those concerns were supposed to have been addressed before this was passed into law. You don't pass a law and then you go back and start thinking of how to defend that law. I want to believe that a lot of jobs were done before the issue of 4% FOB came on board, and we should go ahead and implement immediately. Pardon? Yeah, so, no, okay, yeah, that is my comment anyway. That is my comment. And I believe that this is acceptable to all the committee members here present. Am I speaking the minds of the committee members? Yes. That the 4% FOB should be implemented immediately as enshrined in the law? Yes. Okay. That is the law, and the law stands. Now, the other issue has to do with the extension. The Honourable Minister mentioned the issue of extension of the 2024 budget, that the implementation is extended to 2025. That extension in itself does not augur well for the economy. Okay? But that is not an issue for discussion here now. If the fund for implementation of these projects are available, they should please go ahead and implement those projects immediately. Because the projects themselves are meant to assist Nigerian Customs Services in its revenue drive and other functions. Okay? They are not just, they are not white elephant projects, the way I'll call them. Those projects, they are not white elephant projects. They are projects that are meant to address specific issues. And those issues are still there. So if you don't implement the budget, how do you address those issues? Then how does custom now come up with enhance their revenue and take care of other issues like border control and other things? Because all these items are supposed to address those issues. But the items have not been addressed. The provisions are there. The budget has not been implemented. So, Honorable Minister, I want to appeal to you that you should please do whatever you can. You did mention that some of these requests we don't need to escalate those requests to the Federal Executive Council. So if there's any way you can bend backward and execute those projects, please do. Thank you very much. Now, the CG mentioned that about 49.83% of the budget has been implemented to date, which is commendable. Okay, and subject to budget constraint, we will employ you to please do the best you can to enhance this performance. Okay, the capital expenditure, because you yourself, you know that those items in the budgets are not for fun. They are there because they are meant to address specific issues. And unless you implement the budget and ensure that those projects are executed, then it means that whatever you want to achieve by those items in the budget will not be achieved. Okay, and then that means that by implication, you will still have a lot of stumbling blocks, okay, in terms of actualizing your revenue targets. So please speed up the process. Okay, and Honorable Minister is here. I'm sure he will support you fully where possible. Now, the issues that have to do with items in the budget. My distinguished colleague did mention the issue of university and some other items, the issue of converting the training center at Gwagwalada to university. I think those issues are issues that should be discussed at the budget session when it comes to budget defense. Okay? I don't think we will be able to go into those details here today. Okay? They are issues that ordinarily should have been discussed during the budget defense. If anybody had raised it then, perhaps we'll have expunged those items. But to the extent that they were not expunged and the budget has been passed, I think what we'll be talking about now is implementation. And even some of these budgets are not drawn from the air. Budgets are based on assumptions. There may be assumptions for underlying all these items we are talking about. But we cannot go into all those details here now. There may be assumptions. I think that online establishment of university, establishment of this and that, there must be assumptions. Okay? It may even be part of your revenue drive. Training some people, training Nigerians and training people from outside the country so that you can generate income, okay, for the country too. So there may be reasons for that. So I don't think we'll be able to dwell on the budget lines, on items in the budget here today, because those ones are supposed to be addressed at the budget defense sessions. And that is not the aim of this meeting today. So having said that, I'll leave the floor to the co-chair for his own comments. Yeah. And then we can now go to any other business. Very insightful comments. Thank you very much. I think the next item now is any other business. And on this note, I will want... Chairman, you didn't answer the questions. It's okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank each and every one of you for your robust, wise, and very, very useful and insightful contributions, and indeed direction. And I think the place to perhaps start is where the joint chairman ended by once again emphasizing what the gavel has come down on, which is the implementation of the 4% FOB. I would just say that the key always in policy making is the determination to implement. That is where the challenge comes, because it has to move from paper to reality. And I think, in all fairness, the Comptroller General of Customs, even today, was in Lagos, and what he was doing is what I would call implementation. That implementation has to be done face to face with the stakeholders, not behind their backs. So, Joint Chairman, honorable, distinguished senators and honorable members, we are implementing. It is the law, and we are going to, and we indeed are obeying it. Let me just say briefly also that, because I'm sure that many of the issues, the network provider as performance and so forth, will be taken up by the practitioner, the Nigerian Customs Service. But let me just say, in terms of obeying the law of the land, Nigerian Customs Service is subject to the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007 and the Finance Act 2020, under which they are required to provide the operating surplus to the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the federal government. And that is actually the law of the land. And their revenue is limited in terms of what they can, their expenditure is limited in how much of that revenue they can spend. So that is something that I would like us, as we are focusing rightly on the rule of law and the sanctity of the contracts and agreements, that we look at that. In terms of the export drive, the number one support to Nigerian exports, including manufactured exports, has come from the removal of what of a distortion and indeed a subsidy on foreign exchange allocated on a very partial basis. We now have market pricing of foreign exchange that has boosted the competitiveness of Nigerian exports, both manufactured as well as agricultural and other raw material exports. And it is the policy of the government, as announced by Mr. President, that no matter how little the value should be added to raw products when they are going to be exported. And the best example we have is that now we are looking at 1.2 million barrels per day capacity of refining. So instead of exporting 1.2 million barrels of crude oil, we will be adding value to it and before exporting. That takes care also of the porous borders. It takes care of the fact that people found it profitable to export and therefore get a better exchange rate than the official exchange rate. That's the biggest moves. There are other issues. Of course, there are security issues at the borders. There are issues with illegal exports, but they have receded tremendously. And what is required is that we continue to make it easy and cheap to export, that we make the structural changes. Some of the inspections that we do almost ruin the product before it can be exported. So these are the things that the Honourable Minister for Industry, Trade and Investment is looking at. We have a tremendous opportunity to export to the West African and indeed the continental market based on the major structural changes that we have implemented. Let me, as I say, not repeat what I know the Comptroller General of Customs will say. But let me say that, honestly, the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has enjoyed a cordial, a collaborative, cooperative, and hugely consultative relationship with the National Assembly, and it has allowed us to achieve progress. And nowhere in that relationship does the issue of accusation come up. So whether it was lost in translation, the fact of the matter is that the 2024 capital budget is extended, and I think that stands alone. The clapping is not done by one hand, and I just think that I'd like to leave it on record as that. I thank you.
The co-chair, two basic issues were raised. The first one regarding readiness to implement 4% FOB. I'd just like to re-echo the reassurance provided by the Honorable Minister that everything will be put in place for us to begin implementation. You are also aware of the fact that earlier in the year, you also raised the problem of inadequacy of awareness and mobilization. It represents a change, and when you manage change, you need to carry all the stakeholders along. I became aware of that when we made the attempt to introduce it. And people started to exhibit ignorance, and it was ignorance of the law, which ordinarily should not be taken as an excuse. So, but as Honorable Minister has mentioned, consultations have taken place, sensitization have been done. You are aware, you are also part of the sensitization that we did, and I want to believe that now everything is set for us for implementation. I appreciate what Co-Chair has explained on to address the issue raised by distinguished Senator Fadansi regarding whether we need 4% or not, and I really don't want to add anything to that. The second basic issue has to do with exports, and just to add to what the Honorable Minister has said. In customs, we've realized the importance of exports, not just because we felt that we needed to balance the operations that we manage, but because it has been identified as a major priority area of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Export promotion, export development features, very visibly in his economic agenda. And what did we do? We improved our processes to administer exports. We created new structures. We had specific new commands that were specifically tasked with the operation of exports. So when you go to a command like Lily Pond, it is only exports that goes on in that command. We are also collaborating with other agencies of government that are involved in export promotion, particularly NEPC. Most importantly, we also identified SMEs because we know that the entire strategy is woven around them to bring in more SMEs, particularly women who will be engaged in small business that we can scale up into exports. All of these have translated in terms of numbers, 75% in terms of volume between 2023 and 2024. So within 1 year when we started, half year into 2023 and 2024, 75% in terms of volume. So what we see through the borders is not smuggling. Distinguished Senator Fadansi called it smuggling. I don't understand why it is smuggling. If it is not food item, if it is Dangote cement, Dangote this or that, they are not smuggling. And if there is anything that is charged on them, it is the 1% NESS fees, which goes to export inspection companies. This is also a provision of the National Assembly. So it is not about smuggling. If you remember, early in 2024, we had issues of people taking food items out of the country, a lot of food items out of the country. And we impounded a lot of them. Our laws allowed us to seize, but the president gave a waiver that instead of seizing, we should reroute them back into Nigerian markets and allow Nigerians to benefit out of them. So they were not smuggling. The second major issue was raised by distinguished Senator Fadaunsi, who so many of you might not know that he has had a very distinguished career in Nigeria Customs Service before he became a senator. So more or less, most of the people that you see here in customs uniform are product of Senator Fadaunsi. So most of the good things that we are doing in customs now, we learned it from him. And sometimes, if there are some things, if there are some inadequacies, if there are some things that we are not doing well, maybe we not take our lessons enough, we will go back to him for more lessons so that we can go to the level that he wanted. But I need to explain, I need to really explain that recruitment alone, I admit there is a very serious generation gap in the service. But recruitment alone is not the only solution. We've tried recruitment in 2009, in 2011. We are still living with the headaches that it created for us because we recruited more than our system can accommodate at a time. So when we do promotion exercise, it's a problem. When we do posting, it's a problem. So we need to approach the issue of recruitment in an organized way that they will not disrupt the pyramidal structure of an organization the way it should be. So when we talk about training, there are specific trainings that are necessary for different levels. So there is entry-level training, there is intermediate, and then there is command and staff. He mentioned Gwagwalada. Gwagwalada command is for command and staff training. When you are in the service for a period of time and you are getting ready to be given a staff appointment or a command posting, that's when you need to go to Gwagwalada. It's different from the university, which is a basic level entry training, just like the Army does. So it is when you are coming as a graduate, as a cadet. So it becomes easier for us to manage recruitment. So what it will mean is that if we start a university, every year, if we have capacity in the university for 200 cadets, it means we are recruiting 200 graduates. And then they will rise like that, and it becomes easier for you to manage their career, their posting, their transfer. This is what happens in the Army. It is a factual error that they don't have this kind of university in other places. In fact, the first accredited expert university in customs was actually approved in UAE. There are some other ones in Australia, in Latvia, in Egypt, in South Africa. So it's not a new thing. They might not call it University of Customs. In some places, they call it University of Trade and International Law. In some places, they call it University of Trade and Technology. But basically, when you look at their curriculum, it is everything that is done in the supply chain that they do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think, okay, any other?
Honorable Minister of Finance and CG Customs. My name is Senator Victor Ume, OFR. I represent Anambra Central Senatorial District. I'm a member of this Committee on Customs and Excise. Distinguished Chairman, my own is concern about the service. From the reasons for which they were invited, I listened attentively to get explanations to the committee on the issues you have raised before them. I will not say that I'm satisfied with the responses, because it's almost turned into a debate, an argument between the National Assembly and the Customs Service. We have a law which we have passed and enacted properly, the National Assembly. And what they are supposed to do is to comply with the provisions of that law. They cannot vary it in any form. If there's any difficulty they have, they bring it back to National Assembly. Having said that, I was worried about the pitiable situations put forward here, particularly the explanation given by the Honorable Co-Chair from the House of Reps about remuneration of people who work in the Customs Service. The Customs Service is an agency that should not be in distress because it's a revenue-generating agency. Even though they have ways of remitting the monies they collect, it is absurd to hear that they cannot run their programs, they cannot implement their programs, despite the revenues they generate. Number two is that it's an agency of government that Nigerians look at as a buoyant agency financially. But from what we are hearing from them here, they are operating under assumed constraints. If they generate 6 trillion naira revenue, and somebody who works with them earns less than a copper, it's not a good thing to hear. So I think that the customs and exercise management should go back and look at what they're doing generally. Finally, I take an exception to the way the CG replied to Senator Fadansi, that all that they do, they learn things from him. Senator Fadansi is no longer a custom officer. He's now a distinguished senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Sitting on this side, I believe that his questions will be answered with respect. So I don't know how Fadansi feels about it, but as a senator and his colleague, I didn't like that type of banter. So on this note, I would say generally that the customs and excise should know the responsibility and the position it occupies in the Nigerian economy. Is one of the pillars of the revenue-yielding agencies of government. And we expect that they should take their work very seriously. They should take their work very seriously. Because if it is not done like that, it means that even what they will do, if you have a workforce that is not motivated, your output will also be low. Your performance will also be low. So let them take it like this, and when they come before us, let them know that it's for us to work with them, find out where there are problems, and they should answer the questions and put the committee and the members in the proper understanding of the issues that lie before them. I thank you very much.
Border closure to prevent all these smuggled goods flooding our markets since Buhari's time. Today, have we achieved all this? Because when you go now, the rights you said you don't want to see, they are here. The Tokumbo cars you prevented, they are here. What's the essence of closing border? If you know that you can collect duties on this, why don't you open your border? So that we are not going to lose. We are not going to lose on both sides. If you ask them to be collecting on rice, they are ready to collect. Instead of carrying guns to run after vehicles of smuggled goods and so on. Two, budget 2024. Budget 2024, Mr. Minister, we end in December 2025. When is 2025? When will he start? And when will he end? Number three, finally, Odogu. To you, what is Odogu? Who are those people praying behind Odogu? where Fontaine was given contract, that is train and is it handover? PP something. Now, since we were in the service, this where Fontaine has been with us taking dollars up and down. You mean today, in the hierarchy of customs, they have not been able to train or handed over to Nigerians instead of taking our dollars all every day. The new one, how did it come about? Who are the people? Are they Nigerians or they are still foreigners? And because you are saying where Fontaine is still trying to stay, sooner or later you will see the problem behind retaining these people that are making our dollars here and there. So you should be able to explain how did they come about as the chairman of the board. Thank you.